Understanding loss of consortium and its impact on relationships. This is an important topic when serious injury or a fatality happens to a loved one. So, these types of injuries don't just affect the person who is hurt, they deeply impact their loved ones too. This video is talking about how to get compensation for this type of loss if a loved one has incurred a serious injury or has died. I'm Natalie Gerry, the principal lawyer and founder of Gerry Law. I help injured people get the compensation they deserve for their injuries. So today we're talking about a difficult topic. This is when a serious injury or fatality happens to a loved one. So one key area this touches on is called loss of consortium, a legal term that basically means the loss of companionship and support that one person might suffer when their partner is severely injured or killed. Let's break this down to understand how it works and why it's important. Let's look first at how severe injuries affect relationships. Imagine a situation where someone experiences a traumatic brain injury. This kind of injury can dramatically change a person's personality, so their behavior and their communication abilities. For example, in a 2005 case in Ontario called Hornick and Korchinski, a couple separated after the husband suffered a brain injury in a collision. His personality changed so much that their relationship couldn't survive. The court saw this separation as proof of the permanent damage the injury had caused to the partnership. In another case called Branch and Martini, a husband was severely injured in a car accident. His wife had to take on all of the household duties and all of the financial responsibilities, which were previously shared. This shift put a huge strain on their marriage, highlighting how severe injuries can turn a partnership into more of a caregiving situation. This adds a lot of stress and it changes the dynamics in a relationship. And these types of losses and changes are compensable in a personal injury claim. In looking at the evolution of this type of claim, so the loss of consortium, originally the loss of consortium claim was based on the old-fashioned idea that a wife provided service to her husband, and if she was injured, then he could claim for the loss of her help. So essentially, the husband was losing the service of his wife. So historically, only husbands could make these types of claims, which is a very outdated view of what a marriage is. But in 1978, Ontario changed the law. So the Family Law Reform Act replaced this with the right of any family member, so a spouse, a child, a grandchild, parents, grandparents, and siblings to claim for loss of care, guidance, and companionship. So this is the modern approach, and it recognizes the emotional and supportive roles that family members play in each other's lives, and it offers a way for compensation for the loss of that emotional and supportive role that the person who's injured used to play. In terms of loss of guidance, care, and companionship, under Ontario's Family Law Act, family members of someone who's injured or killed can claim for this loss. So the loss of guidance, care, and companionship. These losses are non-pecuniary, which means that they can't be measured in dollars like loss of income can. So they can't be exactly calculated. They relate to emotional and supportive aspects of relationships. For example, in a 1982 case called Mason and Peters, the court decided that these types of losses include the emotional pain and loss of support that comes from losing a loved one. This case clarified that compensation for these losses is about more than just money. It's about recognizing the deep emotional impact on families. In looking at making a claim for loss of care, guidance, and companionship, if you've suffered the loss of a loved one, the courts will look at your relationship objectively and without emotion. They consider specific factors, and your lawyer will help to build these factors. They look at guidance, so things like education, training, discipline, and moral teaching provided by the injured or deceased person, and they can look at the loss associated with that to evaluate and sort of put a money value on it. In terms of care, this includes acts of feeding, clothing, cleaning, transporting, helping, and protecting another person. So, this loss would also be something the court would consider in putting a financial value on the loss of that injured person or deceased person. In looking at companionship, the court will look at the loss of society, comfort, and protection, and the benefits of being in a familial relationship. Each case is unique, and the courts assess the impact on a case by case basis. Because this area is complex, it's really important that you speak with a personal injury lawyer about your particular circumstances so they can give you advice about your circumstances and help you navigate and present a strong case to ensure that you receive fair compensation for your loss. Severe injuries or fatalities don't just affect the victim, they ripple out and affect loved ones in profound ways. Understanding and claiming for loss of consortium, loss of care, guidance, and companionship is about recognizing these deep emotional impacts and seeking justice and compensation for the harm done.